Welcome to Not Just Ads, the show where B2B brands discover how creator-led content drives pipeline, builds trust, and grows long-term brand equity. Each episode, we speak with business leaders, founders, and creators who are defining their categories. I'm your host, Marcus Sherwin, and this is the creator economy for B2B. Hi, welcome today to Not Just Ads, the creator economy for B2B. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Nick Bennett. Nick has a seasoned career in B2B. He's worked across a number of different roles in scale-ups, large organizations, and he has a wealth of knowledge. He's also very active in a number of different communities. I've learned a lot from his content, and I'm sure the guests on the show will as well today. So Nick, thanks very much for joining us today. Really excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to dive in.
Great. Maybe you could tell us, from how did you get into marketing? How did you land where you are today? Was it all planned, or was it something that you just kind of discovered in your career?
So what if I told you it was all luck? Because it kind of was, to be honest with you. So I went to school for sports management. And so when I got out of school in college, because I played baseball my whole career, that's why I went to school. I didn't actually care about the learning side of it. But I needed to get a degree. And so I got it in sports management. And so I was like, all right, great. I'm going to get out and I'm going to be a big shot sports agent or something. I'm going to represent the next LeBron. Turns out that's not the case at all. And I realized, all right, I can get out and I can sell tickets for the Red Sox and make $10 an hour. And I was like, that doesn't seem that fun. And I was like, I don't actually know what I want to do. And so I actually went into sales. A good friend of mine was like, hey, listen, I work for it's an industrial tool company. So basically all the machinery and the old guys that love talking about that stuff. And I was like, yeah, fine, I'll do it. And I was good at it, but it was inside sales. And I was literally just sitting at a computer all day. I stared out the window. It was 7:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night. I couldn't move. It was so boring. And I was like, all right, yeah, this isn't for me. And so I ended up actually getting into channel marketing, but on the B2C side. So I was actually working for Motorola. And so my job was I had all of the AT&T accounts on the East Coast. And so all the indirect stores that were franchise owned. And so I would go up and down the East Coast and I would basically help teach the stores, teach the consumers why the next phone was the end all be all, why you should buy it over Apple, basically. And we would always launch the new product whenever Apple launched, which was even crazier to me. But I was like, all right, yeah, this was fine. I did it for a few years. I actually learned a ton. And then I actually ended up getting into kind of tech from there. And it was more of a channel marketing role. And you were working with the partners and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But it was fiber optic networking and stuff like that. Again, no interest. It wasn't that exciting. And then I actually just got lucky. I don't actually remember how it happened, but I ended up getting a field marketing role because channel marketing, field marketing kind of translate very closely together. And I was in B2B SaaS tech. And this was a couple of years after I graduated from college. And I just didn't look back. I did field marketing for 12 years and then, branched out into account-based marketing, customer marketing, influencer, community, social, leading. And now I'm kind of running my own thing. And so, I've been a marketing leader for many years. I've been a solopreneur. I had a company with my previous partner, Mark, called TAC, where we built a 7-figure business in 6 months.
Wow.
And so it's been a lot of fun learning, testing, failing, and trying to figure out what actually works. And I feel like now I'm in a happy state. I feel like I feel good about what I'm doing. I feel like it's meaningful work. And I feel like, it's fun being your own boss. No one's breathing over your shoulder. And ultimately it's up to you to produce the results or you don't make money.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the business that you built with your previous partner, your co-founder.
Yeah.
Scaling to 7 figures in 6 months. That's impressive results. What was the product, or how did you manage to scale it to that level so fast in such a short time frame?
Yeah, so I have to give credit to LinkedIn. Him and I, he was a VP of marketing and a CMO. That's how we actually knew each other. We were both local to the Boston area, but he worked at companies like HubSpot and Drift, and then ultimately was the CMO of this virtual event platform and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I ended up working with him, and I created this kind of like evangelism role because again, I was, customer zero. And the founders ended up basically saying like, "Hey, we need to exit the US." Everyone got laid off. And so he's like, "Hey, you want to start a company together?" And at the time, I had twin girls that were just born. They were like 2 months old. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I was like, "I don't know if that's a good idea." He's like, "Listen, we've built good enough reputations, good enough networks on LinkedIn that if this fails for whatever reason, I don't think it will, we can go back in house." I was like, "All right, cool." Yeah. I asked my wife, I said, "What do you think?" She's a teacher, so she has a stable job. So she's like, "Yeah, go for it." And I was like, "All right, cool." And so we didn't call ourselves an agency, but we had three pillars of the business. So the first pillar was a media network. So we kind of created like a full blown media network. Kind of, I feel like we were a little bit ahead of the times. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of companies are now focusing on media networks, but we were doing this like almost 2.5 years ago.
Right. What year was this? Just roughly, just to have an idea.
This was 2023.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So this was 2023. It was like June of 2023 is kind of like when we started it. And so that was pillar one. Pillar two was a community. So we created a community. It was a membership. And again, it was, you could buy a year-long membership, monthly membership, but within like a month, we had 150 paying people. And it was
Wow.
crazy. It was a lot of people. And then the third pillar was like a services. Now you could say it was like an agency, but I came from more of the practitioner side of it, whereas my partner Mark, he came from more of like he was a fractional CMO. He understood the positioning and messaging side of it, and so we actually complemented each other really, really well. And so within 6 months, I would say actually within the first month, we had about 8 companies that wanted to work with us.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. And it was just like, that was, this was back before the economy got really crappy, in the US at least. But like, people weren't afraid to start throwing out $20,000 a month retainers.
Yeah.
Like it was like standing. I was like, wow. I was like, is this normal? Like, should we be getting like $20,000 a month from each of these companies? Like for just starting? He's like, no, this isn't normal. He's like, honestly, I think, and there was no outbound. It was all inbound. And I think it goes back to the LinkedIn piece and just building the trust and having that kind of like human content angle of it. And over 2 years, we worked with over 35 companies and very successful business. He just decided he wanted to go back in house, and that was the only thing.
Yeah.
He's leading a marketing team now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, great. I'll just go out and kind of do my own thing solo. Some clients still wanted to work with me, and it's kind of picked up steam ever since.
Great. Great. How do you think when you mentioned that you kind of had the three pillars of the business then, what was the key thing that you were like kind of where most was generated then? Was it mostly you were kind of doing strategic work, or was it like a kind of a turnkey kind of a solution for them, or what was the key kind of say value proposition to the clients for the retainer?
Yeah, so originally the whole thing that we thought of was like, hey, listen, people will hire us just for strategy. People weren't hiring just for strategy. They wanted strategy plus execution. But it was good because, again, he brought kind of like that marketing leader lens from a strategic standpoint, and then I was doing the execution. So someone would be like, all right, listen, like these are the 5 areas of my business that I need to work on. Maybe they don't have the budget headcount to bring people in, or they just have gaps where we could fill those gaps. And we would come in for a minimum of 6 months, anywhere from 6 months to a year to start. And then that would obviously continue if they were happy with everything. And we would just work on different pieces. And basically, we were their marketing team. It was like an external
Yep.
marketing team where the company didn't have to worry about, healthcare and all these additional benefits. Just pay us a monthly retainer. And we'll come in and we'll deliver better results than your in-house marketing team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I guess as well for certain companies, it's probably more cost effective because you don't have to build out the team. You already have the expertise. If you hire somebody and you have to ramp up and everything like that, it makes a lot of sense. In terms of then, so you went from that, like your roles previously being in-house. For you, what's the biggest learning from going in-house versus doing your own thing? Is there anything that you miss or anything? Because it's interesting. I've talked to some people that did it the opposite way of like starting their own business and then going back in-house.
Yeah.
And others then obviously that do their own thing and it works out really well and they're very happy. So I'd just love to hear from your perspective, like some of the pros and cons of both sides from how you see it?
I think one of the cons are, and I've talked about this a few times on LinkedIn, is like it can get lonely. And like again, I had a partner, so it was great. Like him and I would talk, and like we would get together because we were local. But now that it's just me, like it's incredibly lonely. Like I don't have like coworkers. I work from home, and like
Yeah,
for some people that is challenging. Me, I hate talking to people most of the time. So like I actually like the peace and quiet.
yeah,
If I could like avoid all meetings and just kind of like sit and do like creative work, like
yeah,
I would be all for that. But some people, again, they need the connection, they need that interaction. Me, it didn't really bother, but it can get lonely. I think it teaches you a lot about just entrepreneurship in general. Like I didn't know the whole like a lot about like profit and loss, all the administrative pieces that go into running an actual business. Like there's so much behind the scenes that again, you don't know unless you actually do it. Contracts, like when people like I would send over contracts and people would be redlining stuff, and I'd be like, I don't know what this means. Like, what am I supposed to do? I would just feed it into Chat GPT and be like,
yeah,
Am I good to sign this or not?"
yeah,
It was basically like my lawyer, and then I started to have to pay a real lawyer, and I
yeah,
realized how expensive a real lawyer is. But yeah, I mean, I think the pros outweigh the cons for sure. I think that being your own boss, again, but it's all about what you put into it. Like if you want to coast, coast, but you're gonna have a couple of hard months. I've been fortunate that from April to now, I've had a lot of good months, and like I could take some time off and not have to worry about it, but I enjoy what I do. I enjoy
yeah,
working across a variety of different types of industries, different types, because again, I'm not being brought into each of these companies to do the same thing. Like
yeah.
sometimes I'm working on account-based marketing, sometimes it's events and demand gen, sometimes it's content. So it's like I get to do all this cool stuff, but like not have to do repetitive work over
Sure.
and over.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And with the clients that you work with, then you're basically doing it for them, or are you kind of training their team in house to become effective, or is it both?
So I'm basically doing it for them. Yeah, yeah. So the
Okay.
way that I've been starting to pitch it is like if someone reaches out to me is like, "Hey, how could you help me?" I'll be like, "Listen, if you don't have the full-time budget headcount, bring me in at a junior cost because again, I don't care if these people are paying me, 5 to 7K a month because when I have like 4, 5, 6 clients, like it all adds
Yeah.
up. But so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they can get someone that has like senior like VP level of experience
Exactly.
for a
Yeah.
junior rate.
Yeah. 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 Which makes sense, and you're right. They're getting it's a win-win on both sides
Right.
because once the work is delivered, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be there all the time. If it's just based on delivery, it
Yep.
makes total sense. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about. You share a lot of content on LinkedIn about ABM and about. I saw some of your posts on gifting and ABM and stuff. What do you think is like the big changes of what you see? And I know this is very much company specific, but like, what do you see are kind of some big changes you've seen in ABM over the last few years of like where it's going?
So I think, the big thing, ABM only really works when it's human. Like again, there's so much account-based marketing technology out there. No digs on them. But let's be honest, like some of these vendors, like you're paying over, $100,000 a year for their platform to get some signals. Great. I get the signals. What do I do? So I think, ABM fails when it becomes a spreadsheet. It's not a relationship strategy. And so buyers ignore generic personalization and like sequence spam, just like any AE or rep BDR, SDR that's out there. Like spraying and praying doesn't work. And so the best ABM is built on trust, timing, and relevance, not volume. And I think that's the biggest thing. I talk to a lot of companies where they're like, oh, I got 5,000 accounts in my ABM list. That's not ABM. That's
Yeah,
targeted marketing at scale.
yeah,
And so I think it's just there's so many acronyms out there for ABX, ABE. Like
yeah,
everyone says they want to do account based, but like there's no again definition varies company to company. And I think for me, when you leverage gifting with ABM, like gifting is not a bribe; it's a pattern break, and that's the way to think about it. So like it's a crowded market, and it's think about, like, how many, of a specific type of technology there is out there. There's probably dozens of them, and so a thoughtful gift and again, if you can personalize that, it cuts through the noise, it gets attention in a crowded market, but it shifts the interaction from transactional to human, and things like you can't do that in email alone. Like it shows care, it shows effort, it shows intent. And it's not about the price of a gift, it's about the meaning. And again, you have to put in the work to go and do the personalization. I think that sometimes you leverage the technology to help surface those insights, but you still have to do a good amount of it.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Any interesting stories? Actually, the reason I ask you this is because I had Declan Mulkeen from Strategic ABM. I think you were on his podcast, but
Yeah.
one of the things he was telling me was that they were working with this company and they found out they had a new CMO and they found out that I don't know, they were basically doing a lot of work and they were in the kind of renewal process and it was a lot of back and forth, but they found out that she was a very avid netball player and they got her a pair of shoes and they sent them to her. They got the size right, and then basically she was like, right, okay, how did you figure this out? So if you can do that, I'd like you to do it for my customer. So it was a quite original way to kind of get her attention. But I just wondered so from some of the gifting that you've done, what have you found that's been like kind of unusual or effective for like getting people's attention?
Yeah, so I got a good one for you here, and not many people do this, but if you can pull this off, I guarantee you it will book a meeting, accelerate a deal. It's going to take time and effort, but you know those shadow boxes of like a picture frame or whatever?
Yeah,
It's kind of like a picture, but it's a box and you can put stuff in it. So what you do is like you have a picture of, whatever it is on kind of like the background, and then you find like 4 to 6 things that truly matter to that person, and you're creating a shadow box of the most intimate and like amazing gifts that they want in one, and you're capturing it all in kind of like one box basically. And so they can still use the gifts and take them out, but it's a fantastic like way to like showcase what's important to that person. And a lot of people, 'cause I've done this before, and it can be expensive. It can be like a couple $100 for one person. So you really only want to use it for like those tier one, like high touch
yeah,
kind of accounts. But like a lot of people that I've done this to in the past, like they'll hang it up in their home because they're
yeah.
like, this captures everything that I care about as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think if you can understand what's important, it's definitely going to cut through the noise. On the other side though, like you hear a lot about kind of say GTM and clay and automations at scale. What's your thoughts on that? Me, to be honest, I'm not really, I would say like I'm probably not knowledgeable enough on large scale automations to give like to kind of say it's effective or not. My intuition is that it can be maybe, but on the other hand, I think it's risky to burn a list if you have a very nurtured list and you just automate it to be kind of like put into spam. But I'd just love to get your take in terms of if you've seen it being effective in terms of efficiency or actually driving deals, even if it's small value deals, but I guess they all add up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be helpful. I think automation at scale is useful, but only when it stays human. And I think that's the piece that like sometimes gets disconnected. Like automation should still support relationships, not replace them. And so if you can make your buyers feel like something from it and not make it feel like it's automated, it goes so much further. And you can't automate trust. Let's be honest. You can build all of these things and they should support what you do. Automation can amplify your trust, but it can't spark it. And I think that's an important thing. Like use these tools, absolutely. Use it to surface those insights. Use it for your operations to make things a little bit more efficient, but still there has to be a human element here. At least in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. What's your opinion around creators and kind of the creator led content movement that's kind of exploded over the last, say, 18 months? Do you see it as an effective way of engaging people, or do you think it's a bit of a trend that we're seeing and that it might die out in the future?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to die out in the future. If anything, I think it's going to actually pick up steam. I think we're very much, at least in like MarTech, RevTech, and sales tech, kind of like at the early adopter phase of this whole thing. And I think that, I would say 2 to 3 years, we're going to kind of see mainstream adoption of this. I mean, people trust people more than they trust brands, and it's a way for you to break through the noise, whether it's maybe a new industry, new segment, new vertical, whatever it is. Like when a person talks, it feels like the truth. When a company talks, it feels like marketing. Regardless, like I don't think there's any way you could break that. As much as you want to make it seem human, like when I see some company page talk, like it feels like marketing, even if that wasn't their goal. Like when I see someone like let's just say Devin Reed, for example, or Morgan Ingram, like
Yeah.
I feel like I trust them. Like, hey, listen, like I
Yeah.
see them, they do videos, they put out great content. Like, awesome, I trust them. If Devin's posting about a tool or something like that, I'm probably gonna check it out, regardless if I
Yeah.
have a need or not. And I think like the whole thing, like there's a shift. It's from brand first to human first marketing. And like marketing used to be about control, like scripts, guidelines, like approvals. And that's gone. We're in a world where authenticity beats polish every single time. And so the best content today and the best content that I love, it's not perfect. It's honest, it's fast, it's human. And I think that's what buyers want. And if anything, and I've been starting to do a little bit of research, more research on this, but the amount of trust, the amount of back channeling that happens for deals even these days, and
Yeah.
what's happening, it's like they're going to people they trust, whether it's in communities, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether they have close peers that they're calling or texting, like that's not going to slow down. So how do you become one of those people that become trusted and like leverage that? The companies that are out there probably already have a lot of these people that are internal. They just have to empower them to be people that want to create content, if that's what they want, because some people don't want that either. They don't want all of like the hate, because there is a lot of hate that goes along in trolls on, social media.
Yeah.
But the people that do take advantage of it, it works out well. Because I'll give you a good example. I was at a company, years ago. uh, Just from posting on LinkedIn, I drove $2 million in pipeline through self-reported attribution. 60% of that closed, so $1.2 million. Now, again, it wasn't a job of mine to go post on LinkedIn. I was just sharing different campaigns and stuff that I was working. And then all of a sudden, when you do that every day, it compounds.
Yeah.
Now, if you had 20 other people like me, think about what that can do for a company without having to use external people.
Definitely, yeah. How do you see LinkedIn as a platform? It's obviously the key B2B channel, and it's probably a decisive topic in the last few months in terms of how the platform has evolved, shall we say. What's your opinion in terms of like if we look at it like probably maybe 18 months ago or even 12 months ago, it was quite different, and I think there's a number of reasons why, about like kind of the rise of thought leader ads and so on. But your own personal experience, like you share a lot of content on the platform, and you mentioned as well, like there is value there, like when you mentioned that story a moment ago. But how do you see it evolving, and what's your experience in terms of like for business related reasons? We know the reach is down, obviously, but do you see that there's still the opportunity there?
I think there's still opportunity there. I think it's become a lot noisier. Obviously, AI has made it where everyone can just pump out lots and lots of content. I think it's easier to spot what content is written by AI and what isn't. Now, obviously, your comments, like, there's so many people just using AI to spam comments. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't give those much like looks these days, but like, it's changed a lot. Like like you said, boosted, like now, like having the ability to boost your own posts so more people can see it. Like, I see so many dumb boosted posts in my like feed, and honestly, like if I didn't have to post on LinkedIn, I wouldn't. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I've actually started to like dislike the platform a lot these last couple of years, and I've been on it almost 6 years now of
Yeah.
creating. But like, it's not what it was even like 2 or 3 years ago, and I think
Yeah.
it's only going to get worse. If anyone that's listening to this wants to build the next LinkedIn, like please, like I'm happy to like be a part of that, because like whenever the next LinkedIn comes, I am 100% going like all in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of like how you could replicate something of LinkedIn fast, and I guess maybe if you like set up a company where you were to do everyone's tax returns for free, you'd have all their details and then just try and create it that way. I don't know, but that's maybe one idea if anyone wants to
Yeah.
start that. But so in your opinion, it's kind of noisy, but do you still find it useful for getting business? Do you still get inbounds? Do you still think it's like there are buyers still on the platform?
Yeah, 100%. I think, it's still one of the best, if not the best, like professional, like B2B platform out there. Like, I get tons of DMs every single week of people that want to work with me or like just asking me questions. I've started to lean more into comments. I posted about this yesterday, but like leaning more into comments on other people's stuff. Again, meet your
Yeah.
buyers where they are. If I can find
Yeah.
other people and just leave a thoughtful comment, like I'm getting, 30, 40,000 impressions on
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
My content doesn't get seen by anyone anymore. I used to drive 1 million impressions a month on LinkedIn. I'm lucky to drive like 150,000 now. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and you're not alone there. I think everybody sees that, and it's interesting because from what I saw, I was in LinkedIn for about 6 years. In the last probably 2 years, I think there was a bit of a push on this video, and there was like they were A/B testing the function button of video on the app, and then they kind of sunset it. And the initial thing I think was that it wasn't enough. There wasn't. So then they kind of started to support more creators to create more video content. But I think, at least from the tests that I've done over the last, say, 3 months, I see that video probably gets the lowest amount of reach in comparison to other content. But I suppose on the other hand, video is, you can hear people's voice, you can see them, you get a better understanding. So as a brand play, it's probably a stronger unit. But if you're just looking at reach alone, I think it's like single image ads or also comments, is like what you mentioned as well, seems to get more reach than other formats.
yep, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. What about any other platforms? Reddit. Some people talk about Reddit being like that there's a huge amount of opportunity in some of the communities on Reddit, and that it's something that's like, it's underutilized. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I read Reddit almost every day. I really enjoy it. Most of the time I'm lurking, so I don't do a ton of comments, but I think more and more B2B marketers are turning there. However, it can get very unhinged really quickly.
Yeah.
People aren't afraid to like just throw people under the bus there.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminds me of like Twitter as well, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I mean, I do a little bit of lurking there. I'm starting to post more on Twitter.
Yeah.
Haven't done much on like I was doing video for a little bit, and then I've just become so busy that like I can't keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand. It's hard to find the time. But communities that you're involved, we're both, I think. Are you in Exit 5 community as well?
I'm not actually. Yeah, so like
Okay.
Exit 5 was technically a competitor of my last company, so like I was always
Okay.
like, looking
Right.
at it, but now I actually with Reach Desk, now that I'm with them, like I
Yeah.
actually we partner with Exit 5, so I've gotten back
Okay.
kind of like in there. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I find it quite a useful community. I think there's a lot of useful stuff there. What else in terms of like community, and where do you see any kind of trends or themes that you see in B2B over the next, say, 6 to 18 months that you're excited about?
I think going back to in person, a
Yeah.
mixture of like a content, like digital content online mixed with
Yeah.
like in person micro
So
events.
like
Not
hybrid micro events.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm not saying like just go do dinners. Like that's fine. But like experiences, I think that where you can get a group of like marketers together, for example, and do like a hackathon or something, where it's like, because the marketers like to get together and it's like solve challenges, but like maybe there's another piece beyond that as well, and then there's the content online that supports this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke to a few people before, and I think the theme is that everybody wants to crave that in-person events, and they come in all shapes and sizes of how they look. But I think it's definitely something that, especially since COVID, I think everyone really, and work from home is fine, but I think there's a lot of value in coming together and being able to kind of share knowledge and different challenges as well. Nick, it was a pleasure talking with you today. If anybody wants to find you, where are you most active?
Yeah, I mean, find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't even have a website, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. My link tree is at the top, and I use that as basically my website. Basically, all the links
Perfect.
if you wanna. I have a ton of free assets that if people want to download, I'm always adding to it. My book, bunch of other stuff, ways to contact me.
Perfect. We'll leave a link to your book and to your LinkedIn as well in the show notes. So, Nick, thanks very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.